So be able to know mention it. Anyway, Dana Banana, this mic is all yours.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for playing that song. That I was always a fan of the group Styx. It didn't matter to me who was singing or you know. Um, that song to me is like the epitome of pointing out the mesmerism of the world, right? This big grand illusion. Um, Everything we look at, I know that I had grown up always believing that there was something out there somewhere that would make my life better. Whether it was that little, handheld Ms. Pac-Man game, um, or whatever toy I might have seen advertised on television when I was a kid. Later on in years, it was, did I have all of the neon colored clothing and bangled bracelets and Reebok or New Balance shoes or the Guess jeans, the Big John's jeans, the ID shirts. I'm just naming a few things that were in style back when I was a kid. And how no matter what I ever got, it was never enough. I had noticed that behavior eventually in time. I had noticed that behavior when it came to my relationship with food, my relationship with everything, my relationship with stuff. Bottomless pit, never happy. And the demands of the ego, to me, when they show up for me, it's my mind. And I never actually saw the movie, which is kind of funny, but it brings my mind to that little plant in little shop of horrors. It's like every time you gave it just that little bit of blood, it grew and it needed more and it needed more until it needed to eat like a whole person. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And this is what happens, when we just constantly give in to all of the whims that are really just suggestions to us in this grand illusion. Otherwise, like I said, I call it mesmerism. And I was thinking about mesmerism this week because it's just, every week or so, it's just a little something else comes up for my attention. And I know we talked about mesmerism last week, but this week it was like a question had just kind of come up. But what draws one into the mesmerism, right? And what showed up for me was there's got to be some type of a magnetic component involved in all of this. There's a pull, right? Because there's mesmerism everywhere. Everything is mesmerism. This is all a very hypnotic state of being. But there's always something that's going to kind of grab our attention. There's a magnetic pull into whatever it is that we're mesmerized by. And tying this back into the code, it's like I can only speak for me, but Dana's personal code, whatever it is that Dana can become mesmerized by, it's encoded in her story, in her particular dream, to have some magnetic component pull her into a specific type of mesmerism. And this is what makes up the key themes in her story. And so I also wanted to say that I absolutely loved listening to Susan and Myrna for the last hour. I decided this week to spend maybe a little bit of time before 1 o'clock, just kind of thinking and opening my mind about what I would talk about. But I kind of just otherwise wanted to wing it. And I really wanted to hear what they were going to have to say. And I loved everything that they were talking about. I probably should have taken notes. I could have easily picked out several things that I could have commented on, but I think the one that's standing out to me the most, again, comes back to that willingness. And I say again, because I've talked about it. I've talked about it for probably the last few times that I've talked here. The willingness to look. What is pulling Dana's attention? What seems to be the lesson, so to speak, or the point of attention, or really, I guess it all comes down to the root cause, the core belief behind everything that appears to show up and want to draw me into the mesmerism, into the story. And those core beliefs are painful, and nobody wants to really look at those things. I know that I've been noticing this mirror effect around me for a little while now, and it has been becoming more and more, I guess, clear to me that here I've spent so much time, judging so many things, so many people, so many behaviors. It's amazing. And then once I started to welcome it all in, consciously, deliberately, and willingly welcome it all in, the question behind everything, every little trigger that pops up is, mm, who do I recognize here? And it's pretty much all me. It's all me. So this annoying thing that I think that you do, you know, I could easily look on it and say, I do this exact same thing. I used to think that the world would be perfect if only, or I would be in the most perfect relationship if I was with somebody more like me. And as I look around at the relationships, and point out all of the things that I had had issues with, and still do have issue with, or seem to have issue with, it's all me. So that willingness to look is imperative, but there's definitely something to be said about allowing it to be there, including all of this discomfort and seeing the thing that you think you are that you've projected onto somebody else because you've rejected it within yourself. So that was just something I wanted to comment on when they were talking. But I haven't really wanted to join into the conversations too much these days, just because I'm kind of in this quieter place. So I just wanted to put it out there if they happen to listen, if Myrna and Susan happen to listen. I loved what you were saying. I'm totally going to join in to your talks more often, and just thank you for your honesty and your willingness to share your own experiences, because I really, really appreciated them, and agree with so much of what you said. I also wanted to mention that this morning I listened to Mickey's talk, yes, from yesterday, and she was talking a lot about entertainment, television and movies, and how she's using it and stuff. And this has been my thing for like a while. So we're totally doing the same thing here. And I can hear how much she is appreciating how much stuff comes through the media, comes through even the fictional stuff. I'm sure you've probably heard there's more truth in fiction, than in so-called reality. We watch these scripted television shows and we think that they're fiction, but these so-called reality shows that I don't watch any of them, but like they're actually happening. It's such the reverse, right? It is such the reverse. I've seen so many wonderful, helpful, and crystal clear things coming through fictional television, fictional movies, even in fictional books I used to read, than I have ever seen in anything that is so-called real. And just an interesting and fun way to be able to use entertainment. So one of the epiphanies that I had received when I was watching a show, and I had already watched this show, so it's about a year or so ago. And we're watching a show, already watched through the entire series, and they're coming up on this scene where one of the characters was going to be disappointed, and I knew that they were going to be disappointed. And as I'm watching this, completely caught up in it, a thought occurred to me. I could feel this discomfort rising to the surface, sort of in defense of this character that was on the screen in front of me. And it was like, oh no, they're going to be so sad. Oh, whatever it was, that feeling. And I snapped out of that for a second, and I didn't mean to, but it just sort of happened. And it was like, what is that? What is that? All right. So I know what this person is going to go through, but how do I know to be sad for them? Because in this case, it was a repeat. I already knew how their story was going to end up, and their story was going to end up fine. It was going to end up happy. But I'm watching this scene, and very much like what Mickey had said in her talk, she felt she would feel herself kind of get pulled into the drama on the screen. In her case, she was talking about Jurassic Park. And in this case, I'm talking about an episode of Suits. All right, talk about a relatively lighthearted show, you know, that is totally fiction and stuff. But in this one scene, it was like, I already know what's going to happen with this character. Everything's going to be, he's going to be super happy when it's all said and done. He's going to get everything he wants. So why am I being pulled into this feeling of despair for him? And it just a series of questions wound up unfolding from that. And it was, some of them might have been, I don't remember what they all were 100%, but one of them was, well, who's upset, right? Who's the one watching this? Who's the one upset? What is upset? What constitutes upset and good, right? Who's the one that decided that, and what do they even mean? And can any of it be true? Because I could look at something as upsetting and somebody else could look at something as great, right? So who even decides what there is to be upset about, and what upset means, what happy means? And it's just all these types of questions had come to the surface. And I realized just how much judgment, just how much assigning of meaning there has been before the one who watches, before the one who observes, um, seems to look at the projection, right? So it's like I'm watching this thing on TV, and I can't even say for sure how to feel about what's going on the TV, because all of the judgments and all of the meanings have already been put in place before there's any type of neutrality involved in which to look at this and then ask the question, what is this for? What does this mean? What is it? So it was just something that had really opened my eyes at that point to just that initial automatic judgment that is there. And it's ready at the helm all the time, right? It is there in everything we see, everything that we experience. And our job, I believe, at least my job, is to simply look at that, right? It's just to look at that and allow it all up and ask that question, what is this? And this is where I spend every moment of the day at this point. So just something I had wanted to also mention, and thank you, Mickey, for even talking about that in your talk yesterday, because it was great. And it really, I've spent the last week or so kind of feeling guilty, about being distracted by television or whatever. And it's funny because I actually went for years where I didn't watch TV or really even movies much at all. I completely disconnected from all of that. I had labeled it as bad, but here it is such a fun way, to like use course principles or apply course principles, to these things that otherwise have had a terrible meaning of, I would talk about television, and I would even use the term tell a vision, like, oh, it's just programming you. And I do think that entertainment can program you, very much like in the song that we had just listened to, don't be fooled by the magazines, the TV, or the radio, they're all there to present an idea, all there to present this sense of longing for whatever it is that you're mesmerized by, and that it would somehow make your life complete, make your life better. And in that way, it can produce pain. But there's another way of looking at it, which is simply, what is this telling me? Right? What is this pulling out in me? When Mickey was talking about, I guess, that feeling of being pulled into the scene, it had to do, I think, with the kitchen. There was something in the movie about the kitchen and she's feeling pulled into it and like she's wanting to yell at the character on the screen. It was something. And how often have I caught myself even recently, like, what is this? And I can feel it. I can physically feel it. It's like it's as though some part of my energy is actually being pulled into the scene on the screen, right? Like, participate, believe it, believe it. But in another way, if you pull back from it and you're able to watch yourself watching, it can become very eye-opening and awakening. And it can give you the opportunity to just watch yourself watch, right? Like, observe yourself observing. And that in and of itself is just so helpful, because I've noticed so many times, I'm watching stuff on TV or a movie and I can feel this dislike I have for this character and what have you. And I'm feeling totally triggered by what they're doing and what they're saying. And then I get to practice forgiveness on them. Right. And in this case, it's almost a little bit easier. It's like, no, they're just on a screen and this has already been all filmed and wrapped up. In fact, I'm watching a rerun right now, so they're not even working on this anymore. This has been done. And I am watching a rerun of something that has already been completed. The question is going to be, how am I watching it? Am I going to get wrapped up in the story, in the character, in my opinions, in my judgments, in the triggers, and how I feel about them? Am I going to justify whatever opinion seems to be coming up in response to what this character is doing? Or am I going to simply notice all of this and just let it be here, right? And to basically meet it with a big old shrug and the hands up, going, I really don't know. It appears that I don't like what this person is doing. It appears that I'm going to feel sorry for this character, but what does that all really mean? And is it true? I mean, is this really true? And the answer, of course, is no, none of it is true. Now, I don't know what is true, but I know that this stuff isn't true. But I can look at the fact that the beliefs that they were there are true. It's so it's just like I said, it's just been very eye-opening for me, and it's been a fun way to use entertainment and a fun way to practice forgiveness. And I think that there's just no way to, like, not be able to use forgiveness properly. I mean, and what I mean by that is, even if it's a television show, right? Even if it could be anything. It doesn't have to be some big giant thing. For anybody who's having a hard time learning how to practice the true forgiveness of a course, say in the seemingly big triggers in life, the good news is that this can be practiced on anything at any time, including something that's on the television set, right? So my findings, say the character of Doug Heffernan on The King of Queens, extremely annoying at times, would be no different than my practicing that same forgiveness on this fictional character onto these other characters in the news that are just playing their roles, right? That's all it is. Everybody is just playing a role. And the difference in sight, this is just another little analogy, I guess, that had shown up for me over the last couple of weeks. We seem to live and exist in this world, and it's a 360-degree total immersion movie. That is what I had heard somebody state it as many years ago. And that would probably be one of the best ways to describe it. And so, what that would be, I guess, would be like having a set of virtual reality goggles on. Now, I can't say this for sure because I've never actually put a set of those on, but I would figure you put a set of those on and that's all you see. Whatever it is that you're looking at through those goggles, that is what you see. There is nothing else to see. And the whole idea is that there's something in the back of your mind that, kind of gently reminds you, oh, well, you're just wearing the VR headset, right? There's reality, and what you're looking at and experiencing right now is not reality, right? You're just wearing this set. And if you can remember, then that's great. I had a question of what happens if you forget that you're wearing them. And it was a sincere question. And I am telling you, talk about television, sure as shit. I am watching this show. It's called Perception. And in the show Perception, there was a character who was wearing a set of virtual reality goggles, and he did, in fact, forget that he was wearing them. He got completely pulled into the story, got completely pulled into everything, and it was his housemate that had to, like, kind of get him out of that. So I just thought that that was funny. I felt that that was a direct enactment of an answer to a question, right? And we'll always get pulled out of this mesmerism. And I think that that is where the willingness tends to come in. So this is just pretty much what everything has been about for me for the last couple of weeks, this mesmerism and this magnetic component that seems to draw one into the mesmerism. Um, you wear the VR goggles, it all seems very, very real. And then somebody points out, and in this case, I guess it would be the course, right? Or it could be any nudge, to, hey, question what you think you're seeing here, right? It could show up in the form of the song that we just played before, is this a grand illusion? Listen to what this guy is saying, was there any truth to that? Once that sincere questioning, once that sincere desire, to discover truth comes in ways that you can understand, it'll be shown to you. And so I guess I'm in this phase right now where I've taken off the VR headset, but the same contents that were in the headset are now, instead of being 360 degrees around me and I'm not wearing goggles anymore, now the same things are actually playing out on a television screen in front of me. And the difference between that would be, in one, you're completely, totally, 100% immersed in it. That's where you're wearing the goggles. In this one, you're still looking at all the same things, but it's a screen in front of you. And what is surrounding that screen in front of you is what you would call reality. There's your entertainment center, your side tables, your furniture, maybe the kitchen is in the background. You're still looking at the screen, and you can still even feel yourself drawn into the screen, but you're not, you don't believe that what is on the screen is your entire reality. It doesn't consume you, it doesn't completely surround you. And I think that is the stage that I am at now. And I believe that where I may be heading to would be that part of me that stands back and watches me watch the screen. And so, again, when it comes to all of this willingness to bring all of this illusion to the truth, it's basically a declaration of, I don't know what any of this is. I look at all this meaning that all of this has for me. I don't even know where it comes from, but I can even see how meaningful the assignment of meaning is for me. Just that activity has had a magnetic pull. And just all of that, these questions come up, and it's the questions themselves, not even really needing the answers. It's just asking the questions in and of themselves that can lead to awakening. And I'm not pretending to be awake, but I'm just sharing stuff that seems to be going along with me on this journey, so to speak. What I have not done is I have not looked at the chat yet, and I have not looked to, oh, okay, there is 7 chats, and let me just quickly look at the gallery. Nobody's hand, okay. Let me look at the chat real quick. All right. Toy envy. This is from Robert. Hey, Robert. Toy envy. It's even worse for an only child. All the presents under the tree are for me, the petri dish for the ego. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know that when it comes to that whole all the presents under the tree for me kind of thing, I remember how back in the day when it came to that whole receiving presents, even as a child, there was something in me that recognized that no matter how many gifts would be under that tree and no matter how many of them would be for me, it was never going to be enough. Like I was never going to be I was never going to be happy. I was never going to be satisfied. It was never this as a child, and I would never have been able to articulate this or even know what it meant, but I had this understanding that this was going to be an unquenchable kind of thirst, right? Or an unsatisfying kind of hunger. There was never going to be enough in the world to make me happy. There would always need to be more, right? Um, Odsy, nice inquiry. Winners slash losers was changed within some sports so that everyone gets a medal. Too much for for we ones to lose. Yeah, that's one of those things I kind of look at as there are no solutions in the ego's thought system. Nobody's going to be happy until we realize that there is no such thing as winners or losers. They're just two sides to the same illusory coin. Yep, Lynn, forgiveness opportunities. That is what is happening now. I believe I am this character. Yes, I have always believed I have been whatever character I think I am. And I've listened to Susan and Myrna talk about reincarnation. I'll probably get into that in a second. Mickey, who's to say that the TV show is any less real than what we're seeing in this illusion? And exactly, that's what we're talking about, right? And then it becomes even more interesting when it seems like the contents in the television or the movies are actually talking to you, like they're directly answering a question. And then Robert had put, or any more real, both are illusion. Exactly. But one is made to seem more real than the other. But what's so interesting is the symbolism of it, right? So we're all like dream characters playing in each other's own personal dream, right? We're all playing our roles. Everything that we say, everything we do has been scripted. And this production is already over, supposedly, right? This whole production is already over. We put the DVD in, just like Ken Wapnick was saying, and it was like it's really just a matter of you're going to watch it again. It's just who you're going to watch it with. Are you going to watch it unconsciously, or are you going to watch it with the Holy Spirit? So awesome analogy. Thanks. And thank you again, Robert. And, thanks for a great presentation. So thank you guys for what you said in the chat. And was there anything that anybody wanted to say? Or actually, real quick, I know nobody has their hand up right now. Susan and Myrna were talking about reincarnation. And I don't know about you guys, but I've spent quite a bit of time, feeling like I'm just totally in hate with this world and and with everything that it appears to represent, and even catching myself thinking, I am never coming back here. I never want to do this again. I never want to reincarnate. But then it kind of has occurred to me, part of what is in Dana's script, I suppose, part of that magnetic pull, so to speak, is this absolute fascination with the past, the characters in the past, and how cool would it be to go back in time with the mind or the way of thinking that I have now and improve upon things, right? Oh, I would have made this other decision. I would have gone into this type of career path, or I would have fulfilled this wish, or so on and so forth. And what ended up being kind of humorous was to finally look at I say I don't want to do this again. I say I don't even really want to be here now. But look at how absolutely fascinated I am with the idea of doing something better or improving upon something. And so, what does that really mean? Other than I'm clearly not done fantasizing. I'm clearly not done with this fascination of being a me. The only thing is I've judged this whole being the me as not acceptable or not appealing. And so I would prefer to make a better me with better decisions and better outcomes when it's all the same thing. So as far as allowing all of these things to be looked at, it's like, what are my secret wishes? Right? And this, I guess, would be a secret wish to have a better experience as a better version of me. So as it turns out, I guess I would want to reincarnate, right? So that I could do it better. And there's nothing for me to do with that because I have no idea how long I'm going to hang on to that wish. But it was a secret wish, and it's not so secret anymore. It's right out in front of me, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm having any issues or any judgments over whether or not I'm willing to wake up and let go of this dream, I cannot consider myself a victim of this by any means because look, it seems there's this secret wish to be a me. I'm just judging the me that I think I am and preferring to be a different slash better me. But it's not for me to change, right? I can't change anything and I can't even change my mind about it. All I can do is let it be here, share it openly and willingly with the Holy Spirit, say, I don't know what this is, but apparently I am using it to hide from you and keep you out of my life. And that I'm not willing to do any longer. So, Oddsy,
Hey there, I just want to comment. It's nice to meet you,
nice to meet
uh,
you.
Dana. And what's funny is just before you were saying about, the making of a better me, the choices or whatever, and I already had this focus come on these thoughts that came in about your name. So and then as soon as you said of making a better me, I was like, oh, I just did that, or that just happened. I'm just having that experience because this whole thing as you're talking, these thoughts are saying, oh, I just love Dana Banana. It's the first time I've met somebody that has the same name as my mom and she doesn't say Dana, it's Dana, and I wonder how many people call her Dana. Oh, this is wonderful. I've got Dana, 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 and then you're like making a better me, and I'm like, I'm just making that all about me and hyping myself up because I'm just so tickled that there's this Dana in your name. So thank you for that because it's great to have awareness put on that, the spotlight. Otherwise, how can I see it if I don't see it? So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Man, I have fought with my name my entire life. And for a good while, I used it as an excuse to have a grievance against my mom for choosing it. And actually, um, she chose this name because I think I have a cousin with the same name. Maybe it might be a distant cousin or maybe a cousin by marriage. I don't know. But a cousin, and it's spelled the exact same way. And come to think of it, I think there might be no, it's the same one. Okay, no, there might be two of them. Come to think of it, but my argument was, could you just not put another N in it, and make it so that I don't have to constantly correct people my entire life? And that is the reason actually for the Dana Banana there. It's just because it rhymes with banana. And I just thought this way I don't have to get in here and correct anybody because I will be called Dana. Your mom is not the only one. Everybody calls me Dana throughout my entire life. And I've even gotten to the point where I kind of feel like correcting them makes me feel like I'm being, well, what's the word? Not petulant, punitive, right? So, and I hate correcting people, but even that's just a judgment I need to look at. And as far as the name went, it's like, it would make perfect sense in Dana's script to feel like a victim of even her own name, right? So it's like, even the name works against me. I'm telling you, when you let this stuff up and you just start to sit back and look, it's like, isn't it all just interesting? Right? Every little thing that I have ever used, of course, I didn't know I was doing it, but everything that I have ever used throughout my entire life has all been meant to relay a story that I, this dream character, am a victim of just being unfairly treated by everything and everyone. And the name was just one of, I don't know how many things I could possibly have used. Unconsciously, of course, had no idea that this was what was going on. It was just a story. I am so thankful to see the story now, and that it really doesn't matter. Now I don't really think I care who calls me what, but I kind of think Dana Banana's fun, so I think I'm just going to leave it there. I should probably change my little screensaver to a banana, right? Instead of the flower. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll find a funny picture of a banana or something and just keep it there. So, but yeah, mesmerism. And I don't know about you guys, but I just for just for I don't place a lot of meaning in it at this point. It's actually more for entertainment purposes, but I like to look at the symbols going on in the world insofar as sort of telling me what may or may not be happening in the mind. And so I listen to every morning. I like to listen to a little report of the Schumann resonance and other different like space weather type of activities that appear to be going on. And I'm sure you guys have noticed there's been an increase in solar flares. There's been an increase in volcano activity and eruptions, an increase in earthquakes. It's like the earth itself is kind of shaking and moving a bit. And the electromagnetic components have also seemed to have ramped up a bit. And so I was like, when I was talking about like the mesmerism and that there's a magnetic component to the mesmerism, I started to kind of question what's going on, right? And so this is a little picture that I appear to have put together. This could change over time, but this is how I'm kind of looking at it now. There's been an increase in solar flares. These solar flares, the sun would represent the light, would represent God in the dream, right? So when we talk about, say, clouds and stuff, the clouds are covering the sun. It's sort of like just the passing blocks or the passing thoughts. You would look at clouds. Clouds could be thoughts. As they pass in front of the sun, they can obscure the sun, but they can't get rid of the sun, right? So the sun is always there. And so this increase in solar flares is sort of like an increase of the God mind sort of coming more into the world, so to speak. All right. And all this electromagnetic activity is sort of, it's a shift in now the magnetism is pulling us toward the light, pulling us toward the solar activity. And so it's sort of to me like a big old sign that the world and the space weather and the conditions are sort of coming into the mind at this point. And it's not so much that they're coming into the mind, it's more of an allowing into the mind. It's been ramped up a bit, and I believe that's kind of by order, by our ordering. Like, enough of us have gone to a restaurant and we've looked at the menu, and the menu is only offering truth or illusion, and more of us are choosing truth, and so it's playing out in the world, and it's playing out, that choice is playing out even in the space weather phenomenon. And it's sort of like all of this magnetism is pointing us more toward the solar activity versus just the noise of the world. And I believe that that is a direct sort of response, to our not so secret wishes anymore, our very deliberate choosing and willingness to remember ourselves as God created us, instead. But in that in between phase, it's going to be a little bit noisy, and it has been. It's been a big shakeup, but that's what the symbolism has been showing me. And let me see. There's some chats in here. Okay. Robert, there is a thought about reincarnation from the Urantia book, I think, that suggests we bring our learning forward from lifetime to lifetime. I will say that when I read, and I'm still rereading, The Disappearance of the Universe, that question or that subject matter actually did come up. And what Artin and Persa were saying in the book was that, yeah, any learning that we do, it's real and it comes with us. And if we do kind of recycle in the dream, it does. But what it really does, and this is what I found to be so interesting, and just an aspect of the one mind and the holographic nature of this entire thing, is that everything that we learn and all of the forgiveness that we practice not only may help us insofar as the seeming separate dream figure that we reincarnate into, like we won't lose that learning, but because there technically is no time, that every lifetime that we've ever lived or seemingly going to live, our ancestry, everything, it heals all of it. So yes, that would definitely harmonize in with what you put in the chat here. And then you love how I listen to the internal observations and correction. And yeah, those are the only things I'm actually interested in even looking at now. The symbols are an integral part of our learning. Everything is for our learning. And that's why it has become so fascinating and interesting and even entertaining for me to kind of look at what's going on and to just ask the question, what is this really, right? Mickey had said there's also a big uptick in floods. And you know what, Mickey? Yes, and here is something else too. It's like so thick and humid, at least it is where I live. I know maybe not everywhere else. The uptick in floods, or even like dense humidity, what is it? It's moisture, it's water, and water represents the emotions. So it's like with all of these eruptions, the eruptions are sort of this coming up of the contents of the suppressed unconscious mind that believes in sin, guilt, and fear. And what happens, that starts to come up. We start to feel more of these emotions. And a lot of people are feeling that too. So I have absolutely no doubt that the uptick in water is symbolic of an uptick of emotions, all designed for release. This is Cher. Love this conversation. That was from iPhone. And thank you. I appreciate that. It is very nice to meet you. Let me see. Robert, YouTube is flooded with content about a spiritual shift that is taking place today. Yeah, I heard about that. Something about the Mayan calendar. I had listened to something about that. And it's very, very interesting. And I'm realizing that I actually listened to something about that yesterday. And I was listening to the people talk about like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And then I noticed the anxiety start to come up within me. And it was that feeling of, oh no, if I don't do blank and blank and blank, then I am going to miss out on whatever magical thing this day is supposed to bring, until the truth hit me. I really need do nothing. It's today need to do the same thing that I do every moment of every other day. It's just the one thing, and that one thing is practice true forgiveness on it. Let it all up. So whether July 25th, 2025 is some kind of a significant date on the Mayan calendar or what have you, I look at this conversation as holy. I look at this entire last 2 hours as very holy, but especially because, you know, joining with people who are doing this type of thing just expands it. I mean, we're all witnessing to something. So I'd rather be witness to this conversation and everything that was said before in the hour before. That is really the only thing there is to do, is to just bring all of this out into the open and to look at it and be willing. And this is the most sacred thing I think any of us could really do, regardless of what day it is. But I do believe that the symbols in the dream can be offering, hey, this is now what's going on in the mind, right? Here's a little bit of so-called conclusive proof as to what is going on in response to your efforts. So I kind of look at all this space weather stuff, not as the cause of anything, but sort of as the effect. It's the effect of what's going on in the mind, right? And then you had put Love That Book series. Gary is a friend of mine who he has since forgotten about after about 15 years. I do love that book series too. And but I love lots of stuff that I've heard from lots of different teachers. So it's all been very helpful. I don't really listen to any one specific teacher at this point. I could say there might be a few that I would zero in on here and there, because there's just something about them that really speaks to something within me, and that I can understand. And he has definitely been one. And I will say, like, I love humor, and his books are freaking hilarious. I've actually laughed out loud reading some of his books, and I really can't wait until the next one comes out in October. So definitely waiting for that one. And I guess that has pretty much just been my week. Just looking and looking and looking and looking. So, and just kind of letting it all up. Yeah. So I can see that we are just about at the top of the hour. And is there anything that anybody else wanted to say or share? And it is totally fine if nobody does, because I know I've been quiet in other people's meetings. Great presentation. Thanks. Thank you, Robert. Yes, Mickey. Hi, Mickey.
Hi, yes, it's been a grand hour. And one of the things that you said, which absolutely rings a bell with me, is everything in this dream is an effect, not a cause. Everything that happens personally, globally, whatever's going on, it's always an effect of what's going on in either our minds as an identity or the mind of the whole sonship. All of a lot of the weather and the unrest and everything that's going on is an effect of what's going on in the mind. So that's something we all can think about. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And I agree with that. And one thing that I had meant to bring up, and I think it's just because it's probably gotten a lot of people's attention at this point, is within this last week, there's been I'm gonna just call it the magnetic pull in paying attention to death, right? So there's been like several well-known celebrities, that have passed away over just this last week. And it's like, when I pull back from that, it's kind of like, what is this? Because it's getting everybody's attention, right? And so the body, the death of the body is one of the ego's loudest claims, right? It's one of it's the thing that we're supposed to be the most afraid of, pay the most attention to, spend our entire lives trying to avoid. And it's like, this is one of those things that has just been brought to attention and kind of almost asking for the false witnessing of it. And I've realized that even even when I've lost somebody close to me, I've never actually really known what to say. I used to come up with the whole, oh, they were in a better place and blah, blah, blah. And it was never meant to be insensitive. It was just, I didn't want to see anybody hurting. I didn't want to see anybody suffering. And so you say that comforting thing, thinking, hoping that maybe you're helpful, when in reality, there's really nothing to say. You have absolutely no idea what somebody could want to hear. But even just sending them a hug, giving them a hug or sending them a virtual hug and saying absolutely nothing could be just enough without even making the whole thing real. It's just more of, we talked about what true compassion was, and the true compassion, I guess, would not necessarily be making the whole thing real, but acknowledging that it seems to feel so real to the person experiencing it, and to just love them through it, right? To just be there and to just let them know, hey, I'm just with you. And this week, it's been a big attention pull toward death of the body. And I just think it's kind of interesting that here there's so many of us doing this kind of work, and we're sincere about it, and we really, really want the truth. And here is this point toward one of the most unwanted, rejected, feared upon things in the dream, in the illusion. So I just kind of thought that that was interesting, right? As far as what is trying to capture everybody's attention for the week. Death. This week. That's what it is. And just something that caught my attention. So anyway, it is 3:00.
Thank you so much, Dana. I so appreciate you. Appreciate your sharing, and I thank you everyone who stayed and hung out. So grateful that you're all here. This is the last program that we have for the day. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Bruce Rawls and Lynn Johnson reading. What book are we reading? Absence from Felicity by Kenneth Wapnick. I did want to say we read one of Gary's books. The Hi, Oddsy. We read uh, uh, The Lifetimes Where Jesus and Buddha Knew Each Other on uh, here every Saturday morning, for 3 years. And it was really very interesting to see how it all worked out. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and I love you all. And